Good evening. I am Lioris Christoph and I am the author of the Austrian Criminal System, a very interesting book about how the Austrian and the European justice system works. Now, I ain't a lawyer and I certainly don't have nothing to do with Austria. I'm a Belgian national, but for some reason the Austrian government wants to kill me, or to make me at least disappear. And in 2022, they did exactly that. So it's very difficult in Europe to convince the people that you have a honest DOJ, Department of Justice, when the Justice Department gets caught fabricating fake cases, trying to abduct innocent people, trying to lock them more than 15 years innocently in prison, and literally committing perjury, all kinds of crimes, just to cover up an Epstein-style story. Now, this is exactly what happened to me in 2022, because on 29 September, judges from Graz, where the wife of Pilnacek was the head of justice, issued this arrest warrant, 27 ST90/22S. Now, this was a completely fabricated and phony case, and I can prove that the DOJ of Austria was full aware of it. Now, the reason why they did this on 29 September was because on 23 Augustus I had made this testimony in Austria. Now, this testimony is very interesting, and the judges were openly committing perjury about it. Now, what I was testifying about was that a girl that I knew from Hungary, where we had a holiday home, was victim of an Epstein-style scandal. She was claiming that she was forced to take part in satanic-style parties where also they were doing sick things with children. She was forced to bring other girls from Hungary and other countries to these brothels like Palma House, where they were exploiting them. And she was also claiming that they had to especially target businessmen and trying to make them comply in all the crazy COVID regulations at the time. But they were also extorting people and involved in all kinds of crimes. Now, this all was very crazy, so I turned over everything what I recorded to the police there in Hungary and in Austria. The Belgian police I also tried to contact, but they was interested totally in investigating this case. Even when this woman herself on 24 June 2022 tried to make accusations against these people, nobody was interested in investigating this case. But on 29 September, almost 3 months later, after these pimps and gangsters were threatening me and my family that if I didn't retract my testimonies, they would make me disappear, then finally there comes an arrest warrant from Austria that allegedly I would have raped and abducted a woman, which was totally impossible. Now, the Austrian DOJ also knew that this was impossible, and when I tried to point out that this was as a revenge, exactly as the criminal said in this case that they were going to do this with me, then they lied over the existence of this case. Now, it's really funny because you can see here on the top Konrad von Hotzendorfstrasse in Graz. And now if we go to see to the arrest warrant, which is issued a month after I made testimonies of this case, then you can also see that it's issued by the judges from the Konrad von Hotzendorfstrasse, Graz. Now, where they also were fully aware of this case from 23 Augustus. The judge, in his ruling, also the Konrad von Hotzendorfstrasse, and a judge also a few years earlier in 2017 caught covering up a satanic abuse scandal with 4 children, also for Pilnacek, was lying over this investigation, over this investigation into the Austrian brothels, Palme House, and nog 2 other ones where this all was happening. Now, they had here names of victims, they had a very detailed description of what was happening there, but not one time was there Austrian police going to these Austrian brothels to try and rescue the girls and stop the crimes that were happening in Austria. But for some reason, the Austrian judges, a month later, they issued an international arrest warrant to have me, a Belgian national, abducted during my holiday in Hungary, and have all the media outlets spreading lies that I would be a rapist who had abducted a woman, which was totally impossible, because the rape and the abduction would have taken place in Hungary, although I was only there at holiday at the time, because the time that this all would have happened, for 9 months, I was actually in Belgium, and during the COVID period, this was all recorded with COVID tracking, so they couldn't really say that this all happened. Now, I also wrote a letter to several letters, by the way, to the Austrian Ministry of Justice, demanding investigation into how this was possible that they issued this arrest warrant and why they did this to me. Also, they had locked me up, refused to give me a lawyer, which I can prove with their own papers. Plus, I can prove with all the request forms that I made in prison. Please give me a lawyer. Please let me talk to my embassy. Please give me a lawyer. That they, for more than a month, kept me in solitude, locked up, without a lawyer, a human right, or even to allow me with contact with somebody else. I also send this to my king, of which I get a response that they don't want to intervene in Austrian cases. Now, of course, they're all members of the same Bilderberg and World Economic Forum Club. I also send letters to America, to Judge Loretta Preska, who is busy with the Epstein case, and especially gave with order E000031/2024 a request to the European Union to especially investigate cases like this. Now you can see how the Austrian Justice Department was investigating this by issuing arrest warrants, fake arrest warrants, and illegal arrest warrants against the whistleblower exposing the Epstein-style crimes in their country. Now, at this time, I didn't know what was Epstein or what were all these crimes. Myself, I am a survivor of child abuse when I was 6 years old, so I really hate and despise these people out of the bottom of my heart, and I really don't like to be called one by some crooked judges. Now, unfortunately for these judges, I had also all the evidence and several copies of them, which I also sent to the Austrian Ministry of Justice, but not after they responded to my letter for asking investigation with trying to indict me for spreading misinformation. So they arrest me in 2022, September. I caught them that they were destroying the evidence, of which there were luckily copies. They locked me into a dungeon without a lawyer, isolated from my consulate, which I have plenty of request forms, which they illegally refused to give me even a lawyer or my embassy contact. And they refused to investigate this all after I politely asked investigation, and they try to fucking sue me, these pieces of beep. Now, as an answer, I gave them a 58 pages letter, and this is even redacted and censored, where you can see all the evidence and everything what they did. Now, finally, a week ago, because they know if they sue me, we're going to go to justice and they have to give me a lawyer, and all this evidence is going to get investigated, which I also want, of course. But they want I do this at my own expense, so I have to sue them. I have to spend money for lawyers to investigate an Austrian crooked case, which they just seponate anyway to make me lose one and after the other money. But now they send me a letter that they dropped the lawsuit. So I am claiming in my book that the Austrian government is the Austrian government involved or covering up satanic Diddy style sex parties to protect gangsters who are extorting a lot of Austrian men. Now they try to sue me over defamation and that it was all lies wedding, but for some reason they don't want the evidence investigate and they drop the lawsuit in one time. So also in this book we go over the strange Palma House case from 2022. Apparently this is a fiction story. I must have had a lively imagination then. In 2022, I imagined that the Austrian government set up a fake rape and abduction trial to make me disappear, alongside with fake media stories to try and destroy my reputation by defaming me. All because I accidentally exposed a big Austrian child-woman sex trafficking gang who were organizing sick and satanic sex parties. In this book, we go down the rabbit hole and see how far I imagined the corruption. I imagined judges and officials committing openly perjury and corruption, and lying over Austrian pedo sex investigations and scandals, and even going so far to try and make me disappear an innocent Belgian man who had nothing to do with Austria. I imagined the Austrian government helping these sex traffickers to cover up all their crimes and seriously sabotaging the investigation into them. Is this what justice in Europe stands for these days? Over the imagined case 27 ST90/22S. It's a very interesting book, and I advise everybody who is interested in the Epstein case, or the Diddy case, or the Franklin case, or the Dutroux case, or the Bodegraven scandal, all these cases, it's a very interesting story to go to read. And I wonder why until now, 2026, 4 years, nobody wants to investigate this. They destroyed evidence, they sabotaged everything, they didn't even try to rescue these girls. And trust me, the stories are similar as what you hear from the Epstein survivors, similar as what you hear from the victims in all these other stories. And still, they try to make the people here pay taxes for what? Our DOJ is run by a bunch of criminals who are being involved in very sick crimes. So I hope that people like Alex Jones are finally opening this case up and making this stop. Because if we see who is behind Epstein, and we see this is the same people who own half of Europe, it's time that these crimes come to an end. And I think it's really time for justice.